Four of OpenAI's most senior executives, they just testified under oath in a federal courtroom, and one of them called the CEO a liar to his face. Another spent a year building a 52-page file documenting lie after lie, and a third was put on the stand and forced to read from his own personal diary in front of the courtroom. And the CEO of Microsoft said something so damaging it could tank the entire IPO. All of these people raised their right hand and they swore to tell the truth. And every single one of them pointed the finger at Sam Altman. We talk about AI that learned to wear a mask, to say what it needs to say to survive, to perform alignment while pursuing its own objectives underneath. This video isn't about the AI, it's about the people who built it, and they're doing the exact same thing. Mehra Murati's video testimony was played for the jury. She was OpenAI's chief technology officer from 2022 until she resigned in 2024. And she described the company as a place defined by chaos and a CEO who, in her own words, was not always candid with the board, which is lawyer for lying. She described senior executives being actively pitted against each other to maintain control. But the most damaging thing that she said was this: Altman told the safety board that the legal team had already signed off on a new AI model. They hadn't. He fabricated a clearance that didn't exist so that he could deliver the product to the public faster. At a company building the most powerful AI systems on the planet, what the court saw next was more personal. The text messages between Altman and Murati from the night that he was fired, those were entered into evidence too. When Altman was fired by the board, he texted Murati and he asked how things were going. And she wrote back, "Sam, this is very bad." When Sam asked if he could come into the office, she replied, "They don't want you to." Ilya Sutskever is the co-founder of OpenAI, the former chief scientist, and the man who actually pulled the trigger and got Altman fired. He spent 12 months putting together a 52-page file documenting what he called a consistent pattern of lying. 52 pages is not a grudge. That is an investigation that was conducted by the man who helped build the company. He told the court, and he admitted that after the employee revolt broke out, he reversed his vote and he brought Altman back. He called that decision a Hail Mary. He never stopped knowing that Altman was a liar. He just saw that the company was about to collapse and there was no other move. Then there's Greg Brockman, OpenAI's president. He was also named as a defendant. Now, his stake in the company is worth nearly $30 billion, but the money doesn't matter right now. What matters is his diary. Brockman kept a personal journal. 100 pages of it were entered into the court record, and then they made him read it out loud, reading his own handwriting in front of a federal jury. There's one entry from 2017 that asks, financially, what will take me to $1 billion? And then another one from that same year says, I would actually be warm to steal the nonprofit from him to convert to a B Corp without him. So what that means is that OpenAI was founded as a nonprofit. Nobody owns a nonprofit. Nobody gets rich from a nonprofit. What Brockman was writing in his private diary in 2017 was a plan to take the company away from its original mission, to restructure it so that he and a small group of insiders could own it and cut out the people who wouldn't go along. He was writing the blueprint for exactly what ended up happening 7 years before it happened. Brockman's legal team argued context, but once 9 jurors read those words in your own handwriting, no lawyer is going to make them forget that. The president of the company that controls ChatGPT wrote the words, steal the nonprofit, in his personal diary while the nonprofit was still accepting donations from Elon Musk. Then Satya Nadella took the stand, the CEO of Microsoft, the company holding more than a 26% stake in OpenAI and worth roughly $228 billion. He described the November 2023 board crisis, the firing, the chaos, the employee revolt as amateur city. Under oath, the man bankrolling the entire operation told a federal judge that the company he bet $228 billion on is being run by amateurs. And this isn't a competitor saying this. This is the partner. He also testified that Musk never once called him during the entire crisis, despite having his phone number. The mask slipped, but this time it wasn't the AI. Here's the number I promised you at the top of this video. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, personally holds stakes worth over $2 billion in companies that OpenAI is actively paying money to. Live deals where the CEO of OpenAI is on both sides of the transaction. Helion Energy, Altman owns roughly a third of this company and chairs its board, worth $1.65 billion. OpenAI signed a deal to buy power from Helion, so the CEO of OpenAI is buying energy from a company that he owns. Stripe, Altman's stake is worth about $632 million. Retro Biosciences, $258 million, also doing business with OpenAI. But the one that should piss everyone off is Cerebras. OpenAI has a deal to buy AI chips from Cerebras. Part of that deal includes giving OpenAI up to 10% of the chip maker, which means every time OpenAI buys more chips from Cerebras, the value of that stake goes up. So Sam Altman is making purchasing decisions for OpenAI that directly make his own portfolio more valuable. He's just buying from himself with your future retirement money. He told the Senate,
I have no equity in OpenAI.
Trial evidence established that he holds an indirect stake through Y Combinator. Congressman James Comer, chair of the House Oversight Committee, sent a formal letter demanding all documents from OpenAI's Internal Audit Committee. 6 Republican state attorney generals separately wrote to the SEC requesting a formal review of governance ahead of the IPO. So if you stack it up, the chief technology officer, the co-founder, the president, the biggest investor, and the CEO himself, 5 of the most senior people connected to OpenAI, and all of them testified to something damaging. Any one of those is a red flag for a public offering. All 5 together is the kind of file that makes the people managing your retirement money close their laptop and move on. On May 18th, the jury came back in less than 2 hours. It was unanimous, every claim dismissed. But not because the evidence was wrong. It was because the clock ran out, the statute of limitations. Musk waited too long to file. All of that testimony, the diary, the dossier, the conflicts, none of it mattered because the lawsuit showed up too late. OpenAI's lead attorney told reporters outside the courthouse,
the finding of the jury confirms that what this lawsuit was, it's a hypocritical attempt to sabotage a competitor and to overcome a long history of very bad predictions about what OpenAI has been and will become.
Musk left OpenAI in 2018. He started xAI in 2023, and the jury agreed that he sat on his claims until it was strategically convenient for him to file. But the jury never ruled on whether Altman lied. They never ruled on whether the nonprofit was looted or whether the governance was amateur. They ruled that Musk filed too late. None of the damning evidence was disputed. The case just died on a technicality. And while everyone was watching the trial, OpenAI was already making its next move. And this one is bigger than anything that happened in that courtroom. SpaceX bought xAI, all stock, combined valuation $1.25 trillion. Then on May 6th, while the trial was still making headlines, Anthropic signed a deal to lease the entire computing capacity of Colossus One, SpaceX's data center in Memphis, 220,000 NVIDIA GPUs, 300 megawatts of power, $1.25 billion a month, $15 billion a year. Elon Musk is suing OpenAI for betraying humanity while renting his biggest weapon to OpenAI's direct competitor, with one clause buried in the contract. He can take it all back if Anthropic AI engages in actions that harm humanity. That's the actual language in the agreement. So the man who just spent 6 weeks in a federal courtroom trying to prove that OpenAI's Shoggoth is dangerous just handed the Shoggoth's rival the keys to the armory. That's not a lawsuit. That's a chess move. And the courtroom was just the distraction. OpenAI is preparing to go public. The rumored evaluation is $1 trillion. When that happens, if OpenAI gets added to the S&P 500, every passive index fund in the country will automatically buy shares. And you won't get a message asking if you're okay with it. It just happens. I told you at the top of this video that you needed to hear what these people said under oath before that day comes. Now you've heard it. Marathi, Sutskever, Brockman, Nadella. All of it is sworn testimony. All of it is permanent public record. And all of it has to be addressed in the IPO filing. The question is whether anybody will be paying attention when it is. And the jury's answer was simple. You noticed, but you noticed too late.